Hello, everyone. I have another very interesting poem for you today. The name itself is so interesting, isn't it? Grandma Climbs a Tree. Can you imagine Grandma climbing a tree? No, right? Not possible. And that's what makes this poem so interesting. This poem was written by Ruskin Bond, and I have taken it from Dreamcatcher and English Reader, Book 5. I will read and explain the poem to you. The first time I will go through it slowly, read it with expression, so that you can use this poem for an elocution competition if you need to. Shall we begin? My grandmother was a genius. You'd like to know why? Because she could climb trees, spreading or high. She'd be up their branches in a trice. And mind you, when last she climbed a tree, she was 62. Ever since childhood, she had this gift for being happier in a tree than in a lift. And though, as years went by, she would be told that climbing trees should stop when one grew old, and that growing old should be gone about gracefully. She'd laugh and say, "Well, I'll grow old as gracefully. I can do it better." And we had to agree she hadn't been up at one time or another, having learned to climb from a loving brother when she was 6. But it was feared by all that one day she'd have a terrible fall. The outcome was different while we were in town. She climbed a tree and couldn't come down. We went to the rescue, and then the doctor took Granny's temperature and said, "I strongly recommend a quiet week in bed." We sighed with relief and tucked her up well. Poor Granny, for her, it was like a season in hell, confined to her bedroom while every breeze whispered of summer and dancing leaves, then sat up and said, "I lie here no longer." And she called for my father and told him, undaunted, that a house in a treetop was what she wanted. My dad knew his duties. He said, "That's all right. You'll have what you want, dear. I'll start work tonight." With my expert assistance, he soon finished the chore, made her a treehouse with windows and a door. So Granny moved up, and now every day I climb to her room with glasses and tray. She sits there in state and drinks grape juice with me, upholding her right to reside in a tree. Did you enjoy it? I hope you did. Well, let's go back now and I will explain it to you. My grandmother was a genius. She was very clever, very smart. You'd like to know why? Well, the writer, the poet, thought that his grandmother was a genius. She was special and could do things that others couldn't do. And he thought that of her because she could climb trees. Whether the trees were spreading, the branches were spread out, or the tree was a very high one, she could still climb them, and not just climb a tree, but climb it very fast, in a trice, quickly. And the poet goes on to say that, mind you, when she last climbed a tree, she was 62. 62 years old, and she climbed a tree. Don't forget that climbed is pronounced as climbed with a silent B. Ever since childhood, she had this gift. What gift? The gift of climbing up a tree very fast. And she would be much happier in a tree than in a lift. Of course, as she grew older, her family members kept telling her that she should not climb trees anymore. She should grow old gracefully, beautifully. But she would laugh and say, no, no, if growing old gracefully means that I cannot climb trees any longer, then I would rather grow old disgracefully, opposite of gracefully, in a bad way. And we had to agree, he says. Family members had to agree with her because whenever she climbed a tree, she did it so well. She had learned to climb from her loving brother when she was 6 years old. But now they were scared. They were scared that because of her age, if she tried to climb a tree, she might have a terrible fall. And then something like that did happen. No, she didn't fall off a tree, but she did climb a tree at her age, and there was a problem. Her family was in town. She climbed a tree and she couldn't get down. She was stuck up there. Of course, they rescued her, and then they called the doctor, and the doctor took her temperature, and the doctor said, you know what? I say that Granny should stay in bed for an entire week, a quiet week. So the family members were very happy because they had been telling her that she needed to stop climbing trees for a very long time, and she had not listened to them. So they tucked her into bed and they said, yes, you just rest here and get well soon. And for Granny, that was hell. She could not bear it. She could not bear it because it was summer. The leaves were dancing. The breeze was blowing through every tree. And she longed to be up in a tree, but she couldn't. She waited. She tried to be on her best behavior until finally she gave up. And she called her son and said, listen, I will tell you how we can solve this problem. I need to be in a tree. You don't want me to climb a tree. So what you should do is build me a house in a treetop. That will solve the problem. Of course, my dad knew his duties, meaning the poet's father, grandma's son, knew what his duties were towards his mother. His mother asked for something. It was not completely unreasonable, and so he had to agree with her. And he said, okay, if that's what you want, I will start working on a treehouse right now. Of course, the poet helped, and they both started working, and very soon had a treehouse ready for her with windows and a door, a beautiful one, up in the tree. So Granny moved up. She lived in the tree house. She didn't have to climb up and down a tree. She got complete pleasure out of being up in a tree. She got what she always wanted at her age. And now the poet climbs up to her room with glasses and tray every single day. They sit there together. Grandma is in her element because she's so happy, and they both drink grape juice together. She upholds her right to reside in a tree, meaning she has now staked her claim. She now says that this is my tree and I will always live in one. So, did you enjoy the poem? It is quite an interesting and unique one, isn't it? And a simple one too. So go ahead and use it if you have an elocution competition coming up. Change your voice for each character and say each word clearly. And I guarantee that you have a great chance of winning. Bye for now.